The massive screen on the U.S. Prometheus's bridge showed 3 alien ships approaching Earth's defense line. Captain David Miller stood straight, his hands behind his back, watching the strange vessels grow larger. Each alien ship looked like a silver teardrop, smooth and bright against the darkness of space. "Status report," Miller said, his voice calm despite the tension in the room. "The alien ships are holding position at 5 million kilometers, sir," said Lieutenant Emma Carter from her station. Her fingers moved quickly across the glowing control panel. "Their weapons are powered down, but I'm detecting strong energy readings. They could power up very quickly." Miller nodded. The U.S. Prometheus was humanity's newest and most powerful ship. At 2 kilometers long, the black titanium hull could absorb most energy weapons. Its own guns could tear apart mountains. But these aliens were unknown, and unknown meant dangerous. "Sir, they're broadcasting a message," said Communications Officer Lisa Brown. "It's being translated now." The main screen flickered, showing a tall, blue-skinned alien. It had 4 eyes and wore what looked like a silver uniform. When it spoke, its words came through in clear English. "People of Earth, we are the Galactic Council. We come with both a warning and a command. Your species has developed too quickly. Your weapons are too advanced for your level of culture. You will surrender all military vessels and weapons immediately, or face removal from this galaxy." The bridge crew stayed quiet. They had trained for first contact, but not like this. Miller stepped forward. "This is Captain David Miller of the U.S. Prometheus. We are a peaceful species, but we will defend ourselves if threatened. Why do you demand our weapons?" The alien's upper eyes blinked. "Your kind always says the same thing. We have watched 17 developing species destroy themselves with advanced weapons. We will not allow it again. You have 6 Earth hours to begin disarmament." The screen went dark. "Well," Miller said, "they're direct." He turned to his crew. "Options." Science Officer Robert Hayes spoke up from his station. "Sir, I'm analyzing their ship designs. Something's odd. Their weapons look rushed, like they were added recently. These aren't warships that were built from the ground up. They're modified civilian ships." "Scared civilians with guns are sometimes more dangerous than soldiers," Miller said. He walked to the tactical station where Emma worked. "What are our chances if they attack?" Emma studied her readings. "The Prometheus was built to fight an entire fleet, sir. We have shields they don't seem to know exist. Our quantum cannons operate on principles their sensors might not even detect. We could probably take them. But that's not the right move," Miller said. He turned to Lisa at Communications. "Send this message. Galactic Council vessels, we reject your demand and your deadline. However, we invite your representatives aboard our ship to discuss this properly. You may scan our vessel and select a neutral meeting room. We will follow all safety protocols you require." The crew looked surprised. Miller smiled slightly. "If they're really worried about us destroying ourselves, let's show them we know how to talk first. And if they're hiding something." He looked at the tactical display showing the Prometheus's weapon systems. The ship had enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Lisa's console beeped. "They're responding, sir. They agree. They're sending 2 representatives in a shuttle." "Interesting," Miller said. "Very interesting. Most bullies don't accept invitations to talk. Security teams to Diplomat Deck 3. Hayes, Carter, you're with me. Let's go meet our guests and find out what they're really afraid of." As Miller walked to the elevator, he looked back at the main screen. The alien ship still hung there, silver against black. Something had scared them badly enough to threaten a species they'd never met. He intended to find out what. "And someone get me a coffee," he added as the elevator doors closed. "I have a feeling this is going to be a long day." In the space around them, the U.S. Prometheus floated silently, its black hull barely visible against the stars. The ship was humanity's greatest achievement, but today it might become something more, either the cause of humanity's first interstellar war or the tool that uncovered a mystery that had the galaxy's oldest civilization breaking its own rules. Lieutenant Emma Carter couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. While Captain Miller prepared to meet the alien representatives, she sat at her station reviewing the data they'd received from the Galactic Council's initial transmission. The aliens had accidentally sent more than just their threat. Their ship's computer had been broadcasting unsecured data packets. "Computer, show me all historical records from the Council database," she said. The screen filled with hundreds of entries. Each one told the same story. A developing species discovered, then forced to disarm, then nothing. Those civilizations simply disappeared from the records. "Hey, Robert, take a look at this," Emma called to Science Officer Hayes, who was still on the bridge. He walked over, coffee cup in hand. "What did you find?" "Look at the dates," Emma pointed at the screen. The Council's peacekeeping missions used to happen once every few hundred years. But in the last 5 years, they've approached 12 different species. They're rushing. Robert leaned closer. And getting sloppy. Their ships aren't even properly armed. It's like they grabbed whatever vessels they could find and strapped weapons to them. The bridge elevator opened, and Lisa Brown hurried in. "The alien shuttle is approaching. But you both need to see this." She sent a file to their screens. "I've been listening to their internal communications. They keep referring to something called the dark wave." Emma opened the file. The translated alien words appeared in front of her. "Dark wave approaching faster than predicted. Previous containment methods failed. Need more resources. Need more allies. They're not trying to keep us from destroying ourselves," Robert said slowly. "They're collecting weapons and ships from every species they can find. But why?" Before anyone could answer, Captain Miller's voice came through the ship's speakers. "Bridge crew to Diplomatic Room 3. Our guests have arrived." Emma, Robert, and Lisa hurried to the elevator. As they walked through the Prometheus's wide corridors, Emma noticed more details from the data. The Council's getting desperate. Each species they approached was more advanced than the last. "Until us. We're the most advanced?" Lisa asked. "No," Emma said. "We're the least advanced species they've contacted in 50 years. But we built something they didn't expect." She gestured at the walls around them. The Prometheus wasn't just a battleship. It was humanity's greatest achievement. A ship that could harness quantum energy in ways even the Council hadn't mastered. They reached Diplomatic Room 3. Through the clear doors, they could see Captain Miller sitting across from 2 blue-skinned aliens. Security teams stood along the walls, rifles ready. "Enter," Miller called out. The doors slid open. Emma studied the aliens as she sat down. They looked tired. Their silver uniforms were wrinkled, and their 4 eyes kept darting to the windows that showed the Prometheus's massive hull stretching into space. "Your officers have joined us at the perfect time," one alien said. "I am First Speaker Zarn. We were just explaining to your captain why your species must be contained." "You mean why you want our weapons?" Emma said. "Like you took weapons from 12 other species in the past 5 years." The aliens froze. Second Speaker Vel's lower eyes widened. "How did you?" "Your data security needs work," Robert cut in. "Almost as much as your ship's weapon systems. Those aren't warships out there. They're converted civilian vessels. You're afraid of something." Captain Miller leaned forward. "What is the dark wave?" The room went silent. First Speaker Zarn's blue skin turned pale. "Where did you hear that name?" "Does it matter?" Miller asked. "You're not here to disarm us because we're dangerous. You're here because you need our help. But instead of asking, you threatened us. Why?" The 2 aliens looked at each other. Finally, Zarn spoke. We have failed. For 10,000 years, the Council kept peace in this galaxy. We thought we knew everything. We were wrong." He pulled out a small device and placed it on the table. A hologram appeared, showing a massive dark shape moving between stars. 3 years ago, we detected it coming from beyond the galaxy's edge. It destroys everything it touches. Energy weapons don't affect it. Physical weapons pass right through it. We thought if we collected enough ships and weapons from developing species, we might find something that could stop it." "And?" Emma asked. "Nothing works, but then we found you." Zarn pointed at the window. "Your ship. The way it uses quantum energy. We've never seen anything like it. We need." Alarms suddenly blared throughout the Prometheus. Lisa's communicator beeped. "Gridge to diplomatic team. Something huge just appeared at the edge of our solar system. It's bigger than Earth." Emma looked at the aliens. Their faces showed pure terror. "It's here," Vel whispered. "The dark wave found us." Robert Hayes had never run so fast through the Prometheus's corridors. Behind him, Captain Miller led the alien representatives while Emma and Lisa rushed ahead to the bridge. The ship's red warning lights flashed along the walls. When they reached the bridge, the main screen showed something that made everyone stop and stare. A massive dark shape hung at the edge of the solar system, bigger than any planet. It looked like a tear in space itself, eating the light of distant stars. "Show me everything," Miller ordered, taking his captain's chair. Robert jumped into his science station and started scanning. The readings made no sense. "Captain, that thing. It's not solid. It's not gas. It's not energy. It's like a hole in reality itself." First Speaker Zarn stepped forward, his blue hands shaking. "Your sensors can detect it directly. Ours barely register its existence." "The quantum sensors," Emma said from her tactical station. "They're picking up something our regular scanners miss." "Robert, look at frequency band 12. Robert adjusted his scans. New data poured across his screen. "Got it. Captain, that thing is putting out waves of, well, nothing. It's creating empty space. Dead space. Anywhere it touches becomes a void." "How fast is it moving?" Miller asked. "At current speed, it'll reach Earth in 6 days, Lisa reported. Miller turned to the aliens. "You said you fought these things before. How?" Second Speaker Vel shook his head. "Fought? No, we've only run. For 3 years we've watched it consume everything in its path. That's why we started taking weapons from other species. We hoped to find something, anything that could affect it." "But you didn't just take weapons," Robert said, looking up from a new data analysis. "I'm reading the Council records now. You took entire species defense fleets. Thousands of ships. Where are they?" The aliens looked down. "Gone," Zarn whispered. "We tried to fight. Every ship we gathered, every weapon we collected, nothing worked. The dark wave absorbed them all. That's why we came to Earth. Your quantum technology, it's different from anything we've seen." Robert studied the Prometheus' scans again. Something caught his eye. "Captain, look at this pattern. The dark wave isn't random. It's moving in a specific way, following certain paths between stars. Like it's searching for something," Emma added. "Or hunting," Miller said. He stood up and walked to the main screen. "Mr. Hayes, what would happen if we hit that thing with our main quantum cannon?" Robert ran the calculations. "Unknown, sir. Our weapons operate by manipulating the space between atoms. But that thing, it's like an absence of space itself. Could we make it more absent?" Lisa asked. Everyone turned to look at her. "I mean, if it's a void, and our weapons affect the space around things, could we make the void collapse on itself?" Robert's fingers flew across his console. "Maybe. The quantum cannon wasn't designed for this, but the principles are similar. We'd need to modify the firing sequence, change the particle alignment." He looked up at Miller. "Sir, I think we could try something, but we have to get close. Really close." Miller nodded. "How many ships does the Council have left?" 17, Zarn said. "But they're not warships. They're ships," Miller cut him off. "And right now, that's what we need." He turned to his crew. "Emma, start working with the Council ships. I want a coordinated defense plan." Lisa, send a message to Earth. Tell them to prepare for evacuation, just in case. Robert. He smiled slightly. Go break the laws of physics. What are you planning? Vel asked. The Council spent years taking weapons from other species, hoping quantity would solve the problem, Miller said. But sometimes you don't need a bigger gun. Sometimes you just need to think differently. He looked at the dark wave on the screen. Your people were so afraid of younger species destroying themselves that you never gave them a chance to help save others. Robert started pulling up the quantum cannon specifications. As he worked, he thought about what they were about to attempt. The Prometheus was built to defend humanity, but now it might have to save the galaxy, and it would take both human technology and human thinking to do it. Sir, he said, modifying the quantum cannon will take at least 12 hours, and we'll only get one shot at this. Then we better get it right, Miller replied. Because that thing out there isn't just hunting random planets anymore. It came straight here, straight to us. He turned to the alien representatives. The question is, what does it want? The dark wave loomed on the screen, slowly growing larger. In 6 days, it would reach Earth. The Prometheus had been built to be humanity's ultimate defense. Now they would find out if it was enough to save not just humanity, but every species in the galaxy. Robert looked at his calculations again and took a deep breath. They had one chance to prove that sometimes the species you try to disarm might be the one you need to save you. Commander Susan Mitchell stood at her sensor station, watching the impossible readings climb higher. She had served on the Prometheus since its first test flight, but nothing had prepared her for this. The dark wave was getting closer, and it was changing. Captain Miller, she called out, the void is growing faster. Time to Earth impact now 4 days, not 6. The bridge crew fell silent. Through the main window, they could see the Council's 17 ships forming a line with the Prometheus. Their silver hulls looked tiny against the blackness of space and against the massive darkness approaching them. Robert, how's the quantum cannon coming along? Miller asked. Robert Hayes looked up from where he was working with the engineering team. His face was tired after 10 hours of non-stop modifications. We've rewired it to create a concentrated point of quantum space, sir. Instead of firing energy at the void, we'll try to make it collapse into itself. But, he paused. But what? We need to be within 100,000 kilometers to fire, almost point-blank range. Emma Carter spoke up from Tactical. Sir, at that distance, if this doesn't work, we won't have time to escape. Miller nodded. He turned to first speaker Zarn, who hadn't left the bridge. Your ships are smaller and faster than the Prometheus. They should stay back as our second line of defense. The alien shook his head. No, we have run too many times. The Council ships will help clear a path for your approach. Susan's console suddenly lit up with new alerts. Captain, I'm detecting massive energy spikes from the void. It's changing shape. On the main screen, the dark wave was no longer just a formless black mass. It was forming into something else, a massive curved shape, like a giant mouth opening wide. It's reacting to us, Robert said, staring at his readings. It knows we're here. It's never done this before, has it? He looked at Zarn. Never, the alien whispered. It usually just consumes. This is new. Miller stood up. Susan, what's that shape's diameter? She checked her instruments. About the size of Earth's orbit around the sun, sir. It could swallow our whole solar system, Lisa Brown said from communications. Miller's face hardened. Not if we stop it first. He pressed the ship-wide comm button. All hands, this is the captain. In 1 hour, we will engage an enemy unlike anything humanity has faced. The Prometheus was built to defend Earth. Today, we defend every living thing in this galaxy. He turned to his crew. Emma, coordinate with the Council ships. I want them split into 3 groups. We'll need covering fire from multiple angles. Susan, keep tracking any changes in that thing's behavior. Robert, you have 30 minutes to finish the cannon modifications. Lisa maintained clear communications with all ships. The bridge erupted into activity. Susan watched her sensors carefully, noting every tiny change in the void's behavior. The shape was still growing, still forming that terrible mouth. "Captain," she said suddenly, "I'm detecting something at the center of the void. Something solid." Everyone turned to look at her screen. In the middle of the dark mass, a small object was becoming visible. It was metal, geometric, clearly artificial. "That's impossible," Zarn said. "Nothing solid can exist inside the void." Robert rushed to Susan's station, looking at the readings. Unless that's not something inside the void. That's what's making the void." Miller leaned forward in his chair. "A machine. All this time, it was a machine. A device that eats space itself," Robert said. "That's why it followed the Council's weapon-gathering missions. It wasn't random. It was following the trail of advanced technology. And now it's found us," Emma added. "The most advanced quantum ship in the galaxy." Miller stood up. "Then let's show it why taking on humanity was a mistake. All hands to battle stations. Council ships, form up on our flanks. Susan, plot us a course straight through that thing's mouth. Robert, I want that cannon ready." Susan's hands flew over her controls, plotting the most direct path to their target. Around the Prometheus, the Council ships moved into position, their makeshift weapons powering up. Through the main window, the void's mouth gaped wider, big enough to devour worlds. But at its center, that mechanical heart waited, the true enemy they had to face. "All stations report ready, sir," Lisa said. Miller sat in his captain's chair, his voice calm and clear. "Then let's go save the galaxy. Ahead full power. Let's show that thing why you don't threaten humanity's home." The Prometheus's engines flared to life, pushing the massive ship forward. Behind them, Earth waited. Ahead, the darkness grew. They had one shot to prevent the end of everything. Susan watched her sensors, ready to guide them straight into the jaws of the void. Chief Diplomat Rachel Warner had been quiet since the battle preparations began. Now, as the Prometheus raced toward the massive void, her moment had come. Her console lit up with dozens of incoming signals. "Captain Miller," she called out, "we're receiving transmissions from multiple sources. Ships are appearing at the edge of our solar system. Many ships." The main screen split to show the new arrivals. Vessels of all shapes and sizes were dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Some were sleek and pointed, others bulky and strong. All of them had weapons. First Speaker Zarn's 4 eyes went wide. "Impossible. Those are the species we tried to disarm. The Kreks, the Vorn, the Aldari, they all survived." Rachel smiled. "Did you think they'd just hand over all their weapons? They hid their best ships, just like we would have." She turned to Miller. "Sir, they're asking to join our attack. They've been following the Council's ships, watching, waiting for a chance to strike back at what's been destroying their worlds." Miller nodded. "Put them through to the main screen." The screen filled with images of different alien captains. Some had scales, others fur. One was even made of crystals. Rachel began translating their messages. "The Kreks say they have 30 battleships with plasma cannons. The Vorn offer their stealth ships. The Aldari bring their energy web technology." She paused, listening. "They all say the same thing. They want to help." "Why?" Zarn asked. "We tried to destroy them." "Because that's what civilized species do," Miller said. "We help each other survive." He turned to Rachel. "Tell them we have a plan, but it's risky. We need to get the Prometheus close to the void center. We found a machine there. That's what's causing all this." Rachel relayed the message. The alien captains responded quickly. "They're with us," she said. "The Kreks captain says, the Council tried to disarm us because they feared what we might become. Today, we show them what we already are." Emma spoke up from Tactical. "Sir, with these reinforcements, We could create a spear formation. The smaller ships could punch a hole through the void's defenses while the heavy warships protect our flanks. Miller agreed. Rachel, coordinate with all ships. Emma, show them their positions. Robert, how's our weapon? Ready, sir, Robert replied from his station. One shot, full quantum power. We just need to get close to that machine. Rachel's hands moved quickly over her console, sending positions and plans to each ship. Through her screen, she could see the alien crews preparing for battle. Many of them had lost worlds to the void. Now they had a chance to fight back. Formation ready, Emma reported. 97 ships total. The Krex battleships are on our flanks. Vorn stealth ships up front. Uldari energy webs protecting our rear. The void's massive mouth still hung ahead of them, growing larger every minute. But now the Prometheus wasn't facing it alone. Rachel, Miller said, send one last message to all ships. Tell them, today we prove that the galaxy is stronger together than apart. The Council's fear nearly doomed us all. But today we show them a better way. As Rachel translated the message, she saw the alien captains straighten with pride. Even Zarn and his fellow council members looked moved. All ships acknowledge, sir, Rachel reported. They're ready. Then let's finish this, Miller said. All ships, battle formation. Target the center of that void. Protect the Prometheus until we reach firing range. Together, we end this today. The fleet moved as one. Nearly 100 ships, species that were supposed to be enemies, now united against a greater threat. The Council had tried to keep them weak and separate. Instead, they had created the greatest alliance the galaxy had ever seen. Rachel watched through the main window as their fleet approached the void. The massive black mouth waited for them, but at its center, that machine glowed like an evil star. One shot from the Prometheus's quantum cannon might end this, if they could get close enough. All ships report ready for combat, she said. Then let's save the galaxy, Miller replied. All ships, full speed ahead. The fleet surged forward, weapons charged. The void seemed to pulse, as if it sensed the approaching danger. But this time, it faced not just one species, but many, united, determined, and ready to fight for their right to exist. Rachel sent out one final message to their allies. For all our worlds, the battle for the galaxy was about to begin. Engineering Chief Brian Foster's hands were covered in grease as he made the final adjustments to the quantum cannon. The massive weapon ran through the heart of the Prometheus like a steel spine. Now, with the fleet racing toward the void, everything depended on this one gun. All readings in the green, he reported through his comm link to the bridge. But Captain, you should know, we've pushed the quantum core past all safe limits. We'll get one shot, maybe two if we're lucky. One shot is all we need. Miller's voice came back. How close are we to firing range? 50,000 kilometers in closing, Emma reported. The void is reacting to our approach. Brian felt the ship shudder. Through the engine room viewport, he saw the darkness ahead twist and churn. Dark tendrils of nothing reached out toward their fleet like hungry fingers. Krex ships, hold the line, Miller ordered. Vorn stealth ships, evasive patterns. Uldari, power up those energy webs. The battle erupted around them. Brian watched as their allied ships fought against the void's attacks. The Krex battleships fired massive plasma bolts that burned temporary holes in the darkness. Vorn ships darted and weaved, drawing the void's attention. The Uldari energy webs glowed like golden nets, trying to contain the dark tendrils. Chief Foster, Robert's voice cut through the chaos. The quantum readings from the machine. They're changing. It's like it's talking to the void, controlling it. Brian rushed to his console, checking the new data. The frequency. It's similar to our quantum cannon, but reversed. Instead of creating space, it's destroying it. Can we match that frequency? Miller asked. Yes, yes. Brian's fingers flew across his controls. if we tune our cannon to exactly oppose its signal. He looked up at his engineering crew. Everyone, emergency modifications, reroute all power to the quantum core. The engine room burst into action. Engineers ran between stations, adjusting power flows and rewiring systems. The ship's lights dimmed as they pulled energy from every available source. 30,000 kilometers. Emma's voice rang through the ship, void tendrils approaching from all sides. Through the viewport, Brian saw several council ships vanish into the darkness. A Krex battleship exploded, its plasma core torn apart. But the fleet pressed on, fighting for every kilometer. 20,000 kilometers. The machine is becoming clearer. Now Brian could see it too. A massive geometric shape at the heart of the void, glowing with an anti-light that hurt his eyes. Its surface was covered in strange patterns that shifted and moved. Those patterns, Robert said suddenly. They're like our own quantum mathematics. This thing, it's ancient, but it works on the same principles we discovered. 15,000 kilometers. We're losing our forward screen. The void tendrils had broken through. Ships disappeared one by one. The Prometheus shuddered as darkness scraped against its hull. Quantum cannon at full power, Brian reported. Core temperature critical. We fire now or we lose the weapon. 10,000 kilometers. All ships, clear a path. Miller ordered. Everything you've got, right down the middle. The remaining fleet ships fired together. Plasma bolts, energy beams, and exotic weapons Brian had never seen before all struck at once. The void rippled, torn apart by their combined attack. Path clear. Machine in sight. Firing solution ready. Emma called. Brian, Miller said calmly, fire when ready. Brian took a deep breath. Around him, his engineering crew stood ready. Through the viewport, he could see the machine clearly now. It was beautiful in a terrible way, like a perfect expression of destruction. Quantum cannon firing in 3, 2, 1. He pressed the firing control. The Prometheus's entire frame shuddered. A beam of pure quantum energy, tuned to exactly oppose the machine's frequency, shot out from their bow. It was so bright it looked like they had captured a piece of the sun. The beam struck the machine dead center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the machine's patterns began to shift faster. The void around it started to twist. Direct hit, Emma shouted. The machine is. The quantum core warnings screamed for attention. Brian stared at his readings in disbelief. Captain, he said, something's happening. The machine, it's not just shutting down. The void exploded with light. The last thing Brian saw before the brightness overwhelmed everything was the machine beginning to crack, quantum energy pouring from its seams. Then the wave hit them, and the universe turned white. Captain David Miller opened his eyes to a bridge filled with emergency red lights. The quantum blast had knocked out most of their systems. Through the main window, he saw something that made him catch his breath. Where the void had been, there was now a sphere of swirling light. The ancient machine floated in pieces, its patterns dark and lifeless. Around the Prometheus, the surviving ships of their fleet drifted, their engines slowly coming back online. Status report, Miller called out, helping Emma back to her station. Hull integrity at 60%, she said, checking her flickering screens. Weapons are completely dead. The quantum cannon burned out. Lisa spoke next from communications. Sir, I'm getting signals from 32 ships. We lost more than half the fleet, but... She smiled. The void is gone. The machine is destroyed. Robert stumbled to his science station, his uniform covered in soot from a burned-out console. Captain, you need to see these readings. The machine, it wasn't just creating the void. It was searching. Searching for what? Miller asked. For this. Robert put an image on the main screen. It showed the quantum patterns from the machine matched against the Prometheus's own quantum systems. It was looking for something that could match its power. When we hit it with the quantum cannon, we didn't just destroy it, we proved ourselves. First Speaker Zarn stepped forward. His silver uniform was torn, but his 4 eyes were bright with understanding. All this time, we thought we were protecting the galaxy by keeping species weak. But the machine was testing us, testing all of us. And we nearly failed that test by not working together. The main screen suddenly lit up with new signals. The surviving ships were calling in. The Krex lost 12 battleships, Rachel reported from her diplomatic station. The Vorn, 8 stealth ships. The Aldari. She paused. The Aldari say it was worth every loss. We proved we could unite. We proved we could fight back. And we proved the Council was wrong. Miller said, looking at Zarn. Strength isn't dangerous. Fear is dangerous. Keeping species apart, keeping them weak. That was the real threat. Brian's voice came up from engineering. Captain, the quantum core is cooling down. The cannon's destroyed, but the data we gathered. Sir, we learned more about quantum physics from that one shot than we had in 10 years of research. Knowledge gained from working together, Miller said. He stood up, straightening his uniform. Rachel, open a channel to all ships. When Rachel nodded, Miller spoke to the fleet. This is Captain Miller. Today we faced extinction. And we won. Not because one species was strong enough, but because we all fought together. The Council tried to keep us weak and separate. Instead, they'd brought us together to face a greater threat. He looked at the broken machine, still floating in space. That ancient device tested us. It wanted to know if we could overcome our fears and unite. Today, we passed that test. Now we have a choice. We can go back to fearing each other, or we can move forward together. The responses came in quickly. The Krex offered to share their plasma technology. The Vorn promised to teach others their stealth systems. The Aldari opened their energy web designs to all. Even the Council ships joined in. We were wrong, Zarn announced to all ships. The Galactic Council will no longer disarm developing species. Instead, we will help them grow, safely and wisely. Together. Sir, Susan called from her sensor station. Ships are appearing at the edge of the system. Hundreds of them. It's the species we thought were destroyed. They were hiding, watching. They saw everything. Miller smiled. Then they saw what we can accomplish together. Rachel, invite them to join us. We had a lot of rebuilding to do. The Prometheus floated in space, its quantum cannon silent, but its mission accomplished. Around it, ships from dozens of species began to gather. Former enemies became allies. The Council's greatest fear, advanced species with powerful weapons, had become the galaxy's salvation. Orders, sir? Emma asked. Miller looked at his crew, then at the growing fleet around them. Take us home. We have a new galaxy to help build. As the ships turned toward Earth, the broken machine drifted into darkness. It had sought to test the galaxy's species to see if they could unite against a common threat. In trying to prevent that unity, the Council had accidentally created it. The U.S. Prometheus had been built to defend humanity. Instead, it had helped save every species in the galaxy, and in doing so, it had turned the galaxy's warning into the galaxy's greatest hope. The age of fear was over. The age of unity had begun.